Hi and welcome to Crossfader. Dave here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the Traktor Control S2 Mark III and the options we have to be able to utilise the effects units 1 and 2 even though the controller itself doesn't have them. I'll show you 3 options to hopefully get you started and give you some ideas. But before we take a look, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, comment and hit the notifications to see more Crossfader videos. Now option 1 is MIDI mapping. I'm not going to go completely in depth in this, but I do want to show you the process of it just in case you ever want to get into it. So we're going to go to Preferences, Controller Manager, and we're going to select the S2 Mark III. The next thing we want to do is we want to add in. So this is where we actually think about what function we're actually trying to address. So we're going to go to Add In, Effects Units, Wet and Dry Adjust. And now we want to decide what rotary button function that we're actually going to overmap. So we can click Learn. And I'm just going to use this as an example. I doubt you'd ever use this in the real world example. But let's just say, for instance, we want to use this as the wet and dry. Bear in mind that this then overrides the actual function that you've got in there. But we can then click off Learn. We can make sure it's clicked to Effects Units 1. We've got the fader knob, which is this. And it's direct, and we've overridden the factory map. Now, if I close this and we take a look at the top here, this now controls the effects 1. But obviously, it now doesn't control the filter. Now, there are ways around this, but just so you know, all you need to do is just click this, hit delete. When you close it again, it actually goes back to the original function. So don't worry too much about messing things up because you can always delete it. Now what I've just loaded is a MIDI mapping of what I've done. So what I'll do is I'll show you. I've added modifiers. Therefore, this is still this, but the moment I press this button, it turns it into a different state. And now if you look, it is the wet and dry at the top. The low end is the bass-o-matic, middle is transpose, and this is your beat masher. And all I need to do to revert it back to the EQs is hold Shift and Samples. Now it's all back to normal. The pro is it is free. The cons are the fact you may override another function that you want, or you're just not ready to do this yet at the moment, which is absolutely fine. Now this is option 2, and this is the X1 Mark II. So if we just plug this in here, when you turn it on, you get a flashing, and you can choose whether it's on A, B, you can choose CD, you can choose any options of different combinations. So I'm going to click A and B. And now what this is going to do is this is going to control the effects 1 and 2, just as you would have done on the top of the S2 Mark II. So therefore you can click and you can see these, you can turn the knobs, you can press them on and off, and you can arm them. And you can do whatever you need to do that you would have done on another controller. This is the FX2, and again you can turn them on and off again. And here we have the last option, and it is an unusual option, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So we're just going to plug this in. And the reason why it's unusual is because this is dedicated for the remix decks, and if you load a stem song, then it's going to turn it instantly into a stem deck. But if you have this overlay here, and you go into Preferences, and the F1 and make sure it's on user map. Then when you press Shift and Browse, it's going to turn into this AB mode. And this overlay sits on top here and gives you the different functions. Obviously, you'd have to take these off, pop it over, pop them back on. But essentially now what it's done is it's turned it into an AB. And that means these will now turn into 2 of the 3 effects. As you can see there, I've got my wet and dry. There's my filter. And then you see we've got these here. Now, it doesn't work on a single, so I would need to then turn this into group. And then you can see it's moving there. And it is very unusual to start off with to use this as a rotary. It does take you a while to get used to this. But once you've done that, this can arm the tracks. You can turn them on and off. You can hold Shift and arm them. So you can use 2 of the effects on each side. So you've got another 4 there. And again, this is around the same price as the X1 Mark II. Obviously, there's pros and cons to both of them. But this one, for me, has the extra functionality because I'm going to use remix decks and stems as well. Now you may be thinking, okay, but we need to plug these all together. You can plug lots of different controllers in at the same time, and I'm going to give you the demo right now. So here we have the S2, the X1 and the F1 all plugged in together. They all work really nicely alongside each other. So we can turn this over, we can move these, we can move this up and down as well. Now in my situation, I wouldn't use the F1 in this mode if I've got the X1, because the X1 outranks the effects you can use in the F1. So I'd probably pop it back to normal mode, and then therefore I can use the F1 as a remix decks and stem decks alongside the S2 for the controller, and therefore I've got the X1 dedicated to my effects. Hopefully that's given you some options, so therefore you think, well, actually the S2 Mark III may be an option for you, especially now you've got extras if you need them. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification if you want to see more videos from Crossfader. See you next time.